Okay, everyone, I'm just getting all this all set up. We got Brooks waiting to come on, and then he's going to introduce himself and yeah, just real quick, just to let everyone know who their options are um for the upcoming election. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, everyone. We're on everything. And let's bring Brooks on now. All right. Hi, Brooks. How you doing?
Good and great to be with you.
Good, good. Yeah, so this is just an impromptu kind of off schedule. Just a real quick introduction to Brooks Benson. He's running for Utah Senate 11, correct?
Yep, Senate District 11.
Okay. So yeah. Go ahead, take it away, Brooks. Tell us what's your motivation to run, what caused you to throw your hat in the ring, what are you looking to do?
Yeah, overall, I just feel that we have a very interesting district in the way that it was drawn up. It splits 3 counties. It's unlike any other district in the state in regards to how it splits between 3 different counties. And luckily, our areas all do share the same needs and they share in the same struggles in each of these counties in the particular areas that we're at. And so it actually kind of fits, but it is definitely difficult to drive around. But that kind of got me started on watching what we were seeing in the Senate before. We've seen a lot of roads go north. We've seen Davis County, Weber County, um, Salt Lake. We've seen all these areas get a lot of different roads here and there. The roads in our district, though, we have SR 36, we have Mountain View Corridor, we have SR 73. Those roads are probably some of the most important roads in the entire state. We've all felt the struggle with that. I've lived that every single day driving in and out. I think that the only other comparison of need in the state would be down in Washington County. Washington County and then our district has seen probably the most growth in the entire state, but the roads don't seem to be built reflecting that same priority. And that was the first trigger for me. I'm sitting here missing time on the roads, not being with my family because I'm stuck at another traffic light and another traffic light. We're building more homes. We're putting more people on the roads in those particular areas, but we're not doing anything about the congestion, the infrastructure, and we have to start prioritizing that prior to adding more people on the roads. And so that's one of the problems that definitely got me into this race. Another issue big on my agenda is about energy. As a state, we do need more energy, and there's a lot of opportunity with energy, but energy is starting to be the resource of the future. I have a background in that where I have actually built a lot of different pipelines in the state of Montana and North Dakota regarding natural gas. I'm very familiar with the oil fields and the drilling that's going on. And so I understand the limited resources that we have, the cost of the resources that we're seeing, and the other resources that it costs to produce energy with those resources. One though that is up and coming is nuclear energy, and we're starting to see that be a big player throughout the out the world. And there is something about nuclear that fits in Utah. We have a ton of uranium here. We've got a lot going on that actually allows us to be a leader in this space. It doesn't mean that we necessarily have to have these nuclear facilities and nuclear plants right next to our homes, but it does mean that we can actually start being a big player and a leader in that space and be an example to the rest, but also use that as an export tool to California or to other states that need it, and maybe hey, maybe even negotiate some more water rights from other states through that process, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. But the point is that Utah has we do a lot of great things, and we should be a leader in a lot of different things. And that's another aspect is energy that we can really take advantage of. Um, and our District 11, I think, has a lot of not only need for that, but it has the people that can make that work. It can make that happen. And we're not too far away from Dugway and a few other places that could uh, be resources for these kinds of things. We also got a lot of mining going on in our district, which also fits the energy space. So that's another reason that I want to get in there. I'm familiar with it. I have a lot of experience in the energy industry, and I want to help make sure that the citizens of Utah don't miss out on the energy deal, that they benefit from it, not that it's not just big corporations benefiting it, but it's actually the people. And then another reason to get in was our water situation. So we talk about how we go into drought sometime when we talk about slowing the flow, and we talk about water when it is scarce because of the lack of rainfall and snowpack that we have in certain times. That's not always uh, a hot topic, and it should be because we can't keep on the course that we're going with the growth that we're having and the way that cities are growing, especially out in District 11. We aren't going to see ourselves being able to survive with the current water that we have over the next 100 years. And one of the things that I feel that we often see in Utah is we often feel that we are more reactionary than proactive in our approach to solving some of these problems. Water is going to be a massive problem later on. And in some cases, it is in the short term as well. But if we don't start acting now, that the cost of solving that problem is going to go up exponentially with inflation and with other costs that are associated with that, or with other areas that are going to eat up that resource before we have a chance to prioritize it. And if we don't start now putting forth and building 100-year plan that we can survive on, and that we can continue at the growth rate that we're on with housing and population coming in, we got to have that in place if we're going to succeed, if we're going to be able to allow that to continue to happen. And so things like we should be cleaning up and dredging the Utah Lake. I mean, that's a massive lake. It's a freshwater lake that we do not utilize that resource the way that it could be utilized. We do not. If you look at 2022, 2023, we had major snowpack years. We did not get to retain all of that water, and we could have. If we had, for instance, dredged the lake, we would have been able to hold 4 or 5 times the water that is currently held in Utah Lake right now, and it would have been cleaner, and it would have been more usable for the population in the Wasatch Front area, where we are lacking water compared to the rest of the state with our population growth and everything. If we choose, at some point, we're going to have to dredge that lake and use it properly. We're going to have to use it for what it is, and clean it up and take care of it. If we do clean it up right now, what does that cost look like compared to if we tried to clean it up in 2060? Okay. And you have to be forward thinking like that, because we're talking about a huge cost that if we invested it now, we wouldn't be in debt later on. And I'm not saying that that's the only solution. I'm just giving a small example of Utah Lake there. But we have to come up with a water plan that allows us to maintain the growth rate that we're having, and still allow people to not have to turn off their faucets when we're in years of drought. Solve these problems right now so that they don't bite us in the butt later on. So I would say those are my main points. The other, we kind of talked about the responsible growth in the infrastructure and the roads, but that also, what I believe is we obviously need more homes to accommodate um, the affordability problem that we're having right now. But in District 11, what we're seeing is if we add more homes, our lives get worse, and maybe the affordability goes down. Maybe it goes down for the rest of Utah, but why does District 11 have to suffer so that the rest of Utah gets to survive? And that's not fair. And there's a way to do that responsibly so that no one has to suffer and that housing prices can still go down. But instead, they want to take the credit by rushing homes everywhere else without building the roads, without prioritizing these things, so that a smaller population ends up having to deal with these problems, while everybody else in the state gets the benefit. And nobody's realizing that. We're talking about the local control thing. We saw that be a big issue on the legislature's plate this year, where they wanted to usurp that local control from mayors and counties. I don't necessarily think that's the right thing, because here, first of all, local decisions need to stay at the local level, because the more local you are, they understand their problems and what they're dealing with. And when you bring it up to the state, they don't necessarily know what we're dealing with in District 11. They don't understand those different problems. And so when they want to make a sweeping decision on how things happen for a different area that they're not living in every single day, that affects us greatly. I so much more trust our local officials to make those decisions versus a group of legislators that live entirely around the state that don't understand the problems that we're dealing with. And we know that they don't understand specifically District 11's problems right now, because they're still not solved. That we're getting worse and worse as every day goes on, as they build another home, because that prioritization isn't happening. So I see that local control being usurped at the legislature right now, trying to be usurped at the legislature right now. And I look at that and go, that's a big problem for my district. It might not be a problem for another district that does not have to deal with the traffic, the infrastructure issues, the lack of water, all these things that they don't have to deal with. They don't care. They're not feeling it every day like we are. That's the great thing about representative government, is that we can go in and vote for somebody to represent us and make sure that someone local that is feeling the same problems that we're feeling can represent us the right way. And that's what I plan to do. That's why I got in the race. I really feel like I understand these issues. I'm living with these issues every single day, and I want to go represent and make sure that the people of District 11 know that they're being represented correctly.
Yeah. So what all areas does District 11 cover?
So District 11 covers a large portion of Eagle Mountain, covers Stockton, Vernon, Rush Valley. If anybody's familiar with that, it goes all the way to the border, but cuts out Wendover. It doesn't include Grantsville or Stansbury, but it does include Tooele City and Erda in Tooele County. And then you've got on the Salt Lake County side, you've got a little piece of Harriman, you got Copperton, you got a little piece of West Jordan, a little piece of West Valley, half of Magna, half of Kearns. So it's quite a wonky district when you consider how maps should be drawn.
Yeah, I'm looking at a map of it right now, though. I wonder if it's the actual correct map pulled up, because commonly it does that to me. But yeah, this might be a little better. It is a big area, and yeah, roads are tough. They're also expensive. That's one of the big killers. I know Mid-Valley Highway they built over here in Tooele. Well, mostly it supports Grantsville into Salt Lake. I know that one took forever to get built. They started planning it. Oh, I remember we talked to Trip years ago, and I think then he said it took him 15 years to get it going.
A lot of work in getting the permits, making sure that the environmental concerns are met and studies are done,
Mhm.
and also securing the funding at the same time. It's a big deal to get roads done.
Yeah, they've gotten more expensive and more complicated. Obviously, engineering's gotten better. I'm sure back in the days where they just used to, scratch a little bit of dirt out and then laid blacktop on it, it might have been easier. But nowadays, it's a lot more technical. And there's been growing pains with that road.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of deaths coming out of what is it, Parachute Lane there by Stansbury Park, where it's not that it's a complicated intersection, but it's an intersection that people maybe aren't used to. Maybe, and I know they're hesitant to put a light up there because they built it not to have a light, and to put a light up would mean that engineering they put into it. But there's a lot of people, maybe they brush it or they're confused when they pull up. So I do know there's been a few deaths there.
But you do bring up a good point though too with how roads are phased in right now in Utah, and we see that problem all over the state where Utah, number one, for the past prior to 2008, we haven't seen the same growth that we've seen in the last 15 to 18 years.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen it. And so because of that, we haven't adapted at the state level. We haven't adapted to a new strategy on how we build roads. We're still doing it the same way, in the slow growth way. Okay. And there's an adaptation that we need to make. And we need to understand that when we build a road, thinking that this is going to be a temporary road, that it'll be like a phase one road, and then we'll update it or upgrade it down the road when we have more money. And then when we have more money, 3 years out, we'll add another lane and we'll add bridges. And we're seeing that all over, especially in Senate District 11. We're seeing that all over. The problem with that is it's costing us now to build that road 10 times more than it would have cost us if we built it 10 years ago, because of the way that inflation's gone and the way that we've waited on things. And now the cost of avoiding traffic and having to do most of the construction during the nighttime versus the daytime, because it's so crowded and so packed that you can't shut down the road, or you can't bring it down to one lane anymore. So your costs are just skyrocket when you have to deal with building a road late, or transitioning it and phasing it into 1, 2, and 3 phases throughout 20 years because you didn't have the money at the time.
That's a tough thing. The gamble. Do you want to leverage your people that much immediately and have a chance that gamble will roll snake eyes? And then your people's leverage to a point where you possibly fail due to your gamble.
So you're kind of gambling in the way that if you didn't have the money, we actually do have the money in the state to prioritize it and make things happen. But the problem is that
but if we did that, so the state's got a war chest to say, but if we dumped the war chest on every road, that war chest would run out. I promise you it would run out quicker than we could imagine.
Yeah,
so I think they try to slow roll it. They try to make it so that they probably, I'm just guessing, so that they have like a 10-year return on investment.
Yep.
And if they did it and built it so it was a great big thing. So imagine if imagine if the state, or well, it wouldn't have been the state. This would be a bad argument, but imagine if like 36 here through Tooele is a 4-lane highway.
Yeah.
And I imagine in the next 15 years, it's going to need to be a 6-lane.
Right.
It's going to need to be a 6-lane. They're meeting Erda and Tooele right now. But if we jumped in and did that right now, where that is a state road, and then what if, because I remember, I'm an old guy. I remember when the Army Depot closed down in the 80s and Tooele and Grantsville became desolate ghost towns. They would have never had a return on investment. And then other things grew up and we had a slower, more natural growth after that. But that punched our county and the state right in the family jewels. It knocked them out. I mean, it knocked out the county out of being anything viable for quite a while in our county. You know, they were responsible with it, but that makes me wonder, would that put us at hazard? I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, but you bring up a good point, and I was trying to address that in the beginning, where that is what you just described right there is what has made the decision for the behavior that we continue to do right now. That drove the behavior that we're seeing now in how we build roads, because you're right, they didn't want to gamble. But I'm not talking about the gambling part. What I'm talking about is we have now shifted completely. We're not the same. We're not in the same threat of ghost towns anymore like we were back in the day. But what I'm talking about is, like, we just had so many nice roads built, for highways built up in northern Utah.
Yeah.
They're not experiencing the growth that we are. And we knew that. We knew that was happening, right?
What caused the infrastructure focus up there versus down here?
House and Senate leadership are all from up there. They get to decide the bill. So what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about resetting how we prioritize, what our strategic outlook is on the growth of Utah. Because if we prioritize things based on who's in office and who has the power to put roads where, that's not helping Utah. That's not safe for Utah. And so if we put something in place that really drives the population growth. So for instance, if you right now drive from Heber up to Park City, they have a better exchange up there than the SR 36, the Mountain View corridor, all on the west side, and SR 73 up in Eagle Mountain, where the population is greater than you have in Park City and in Heber. But
and the population is growing a lot faster. Because Heber and Park City would be growing fast, but they've limited themselves to an ultra wealthy market. So that's the only thing that slowed them down. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a plot of a pasture anywhere up in those canyons.
But the point is that they built it out there when there wasn't. So the prioritization, what we're talking about here, we have to reprioritize where the heavy growth areas are in Utah. Understand that. Everybody agree on what the data variables are that decide that, and then make sure that the prioritization of roads happens in those areas. And that's fair for everybody. That's not even up for debate.
I agree. Do you think maybe that prioritization of Park City and Heber might have been because of the Olympics? The Olympics.
It was because of lobbying for, we're driving tourism, right? There's a lot of things that do affect the state. So I'm not saying that shouldn't have gone in. What I'm saying is that we do see roads go up all over Utah. And there are areas that do not suffer with the same problems that other high growth areas do. And so to give you an example, when was the last time that Tooele County got a major road like the North and like other places throughout the state? When was the last time Eagle Mountain got one, and Saratoga Springs? And now they're starting on Mountain View corridor out in Salt Lake County. Washington County is the only other place that I can think of that has this high of growth. But you go to the north, they're not having these problems, and they
Yeah,
got roads that have no traffic.
that's a good point you make. I mean, we did get the Mid Valley Highway. That's about about 5 years old now. Mountain View corridor, that's a continuous thing.
Yeah.
And that one kind of got its kickoff about a year after the Mid Valley Highway. But you are right. There is, I mean, if you went to Eagle Mountain 5 years ago and drove through there today, you would not recognize it.
Right.
You would think you were someplace different. The growth there is just, it's immense. It's huge. We're getting, from what I understand, we're getting a lot of tech jobs coming in down in that area between Salt Lake County and Utah County. We're getting a lot of that. And yeah, so you make a good point there. It'd be good to have an argument in the Senate on that. And then you bring up water and Utah Lake and the use of that, which I don't know the particulars of whether we can use Utah Lake for culinary water, or if we can trap it and clean it, or trap and clean parts of it and maybe cistern it. All that would be excellent if they could.
I mean, technically, you can use fracking water you can clean that up and
that's
culinary water. So the technology is out.
It's whether it's cost effective to do
correct.
it.
Exactly.
I mean, you can use anything.
And then
whether it's, I mean, if it's cost effective, send it my way, because Tooele has nothing for water, and this is going to be a rough year. And I'm one of those, what should I say it? Hypocrites through laziness, because I'm one of them big proponents that I would like to see the state start incentivizing developments to xeriscape lots prior to sale. Or to minimize water usage prior to sale. I'm one of those guys. I haven't done it to my yard yet. That's why I'm a hypocrite. That's something I fully plan on doing. But
you've seen HOAs that almost restrict it. I mean, there was a group out in Harriman back in I don't know, eight or so years ago that was trying to not be able to rockscape or xeriscape their land, but the HOA wouldn't allow them, forced them to do grass. So they were trying to get the legislature, in which they eventually did, but get the legislator to stop HOAs from being able to do that in Utah, because we are a desert and we should be allowed to do that. So they fixed that problem, but that's an example exactly what you're talking about.
I do think we need to. I think anybody who can. Now, it's expensive. Xeriscaping, it would be a lot cheaper for me to just water and mow my lawn every week and everything else. But xeriscaping long term would be the correct choice.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if and that would be up to municipalities. That wouldn't be a state level thing, but the states could aid municipalities in doing it through multiple ways. But I think incentivizing developers to initiate the xeriscaping, and then that way, if someone wants to put a lawn in, they have to put forward that cost.
Yeah.
And then on the energy front, I'm 100% with you. I think we need to wrestle back the power plant in Delta from California. That should belong to us. That should be controlled by us. A prior Utah representative talked to me about kind of some of the shady things that go on because California controls that Delta power plant, that that bleeds some of California's regulations into us and stifles our usage and how the city of Delta survives. And so I would like to see us figure out how to wrestle that back, or
They did
or
recently, just so you know, just because that is a good point, and that is where the center of our energy discussions are right now in Utah, is that Delta plant. California wanted to shut it down because they were on this kick about um, wanting to kind of control it, and didn't want coal to be the driving factor of their energy production that they were receiving. And one of our main problems, though, is with that plant, we can't transfer it. We don't have the transmission lines to transfer that power to the Wasatch Front, where the most of the population
yeah,
of Utah can use it, right? And so now they're looking at data center profiting off of data centers that could potentially come in and utilize that. But the state of the legislature a few cycles ago, I can't remember how many cycles ago, went through the process of taking that from California so that they would own
good.
it as a state. And so in the process right now, what they're doing, there's a few people out there that are trying to purchase actually the right to the plant and use our alternative fuel sources, production sources, mixing hydrogen, a lot of different options out there right now. But the question is why isn't it up and going now? Because that was a while ago. What's going on with it? Who's benefiting from it? And at the end of the day, are the people of Utah going to benefit from it? And that's the
Yeah,
question that I have.
yeah. If it's gonna go to data centers, I would be fine if data centers
Are paying a
paid that
usage tax
bill.
on it. Yeah, they should be paying the usage tax on it. So the
Yeah, let them pay that complete bill. I know that we are, well, I don't know. We're cutting ground on a nuclear plant in Kemmer. Um, which that'll be amazing.
yeah.
Southern Utah, eastern Utah, a lot of uranium there. I don't know what it takes to refine it for power, but
So they
uh,
actually put Camp Williams as a potential place which is in between, on the border of Salt Lake County and Utah County, in between Saratoga and Bluffdale, where an enrichment center can take place. And one of the unique things about federal regulations regarding uranium, why Utah is such in a good position, is because a lot of those regulations deal with uranium crossing state lines. So
mhm.
the fact that we can mine the uranium, enrich the uranium all in Utah, and then utilize it we are prime to be able to benefit our residents, be able to benefit from it, and be the leader in nuclear producing energy in the state. We're
Seriously.
prime for it, and we just need to set up that infrastructure and make sure that Utahns benefit from it, and not some corporations that just come in and kind of take
We
over.
just and we also got to figure out how to get around government regulations, because if tomorrow the state decided to build a nuclear power plant, um, it wouldn't produce one electron for
Right,
50 years,
right.
because it would take 20 years to get it okayed. And then, you
Right.
know, and so we've got to one, wrestle in uh, our government that has become a barrier to success. And that's federally, statewise, all that. There's a lot of wealthy people that have made their money that now want to shut down the possibilities for other people to thrive. We've got to wrestle them in. And then we've got to um, simplify the regulations. France fails at everything except this. They really do, but they don't fail at going nuclear. And they were the only ones in Europe that
Took
stayed
that leap.
hard on this when the green madness took over Europe.
Now, I do want to say, though, and you're totally right on this, is that they became the leader and example for nuclear energy in Europe right now. But I do want to say a little caveat there is the technology for nuclear has come such a long way that we actually, their type of reactor, we never want to use in Utah. Takes too
It's
much
not a
water.
good one.
Well, it uses too much water, and there's plenty of salt molten core reactors out there now that don't utilize virtually zero water.
Mhm.
And we live in a desert. Those are the only type of nuclear reactors we should be using. We can totally do it. But to your point, what we have to do in Utah is we have to model our system, our energy system here, to where it benefits the people and structure it that way. And what I mean by that is if you look at a bunch of different states that don't have any state income tax, some of them are even getting rid of or don't have property tax, like Florida, Alaska, whatnot.
Well, they still have property tax in Florida, from my understanding.
They're working on getting rid of it. Now, how can
Yeah.
we get rid of it? Because we can't do that right now for us. We can't just drop it because all of our property taxes are tied to education, right?
Well, and that's our only. Yeah, that's
We don't
Utah
have
needs to draw in more industry, I think, before they can slip too far into that. I think Nevada has a market that no one competes with, and that's where they sit stupid lucky. And then you got the flip side, California, where they will tax everything, or Virginia now. Holy cow, I read through that list of new Virginia taxes. They want to tax you if you hire a dog walker. They want to tax you everything. And then of course they want to tax, the Second Amendment away from the populace.
Yeah. So one of the ways that Florida is able to not only get rid of not have an income tax, but start the process and begin to eliminate their property tax. You know how they do it? Tariffs on tourism, which is just taxes on tourism, but they get it from everywhere else. Anybody that comes from the state, from outside the state into their state to utilize their beaches, their hotels, the cruise lines, the theme parks that they have there, anything that they have there, they basically get everyone else to come pay for their state to run so that the citizens don't have to pay as much, right?
Yeah.
Less and less, and they're working towards a point where they don't even have to pay property tax. That's on Governor DeSantis's checklist, right?
I would love to see a model where if you do pay a property tax, it's to your local municipality. And that way, at least you can vote with your feet if all else fails.
And so then you go up to, you see Wyoming, you see Nevada, like you're talking about. They got the casino. All theirs is gambling and casinos that they derive a lot of that from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Alaska. Obviously, they've got energy. They've got a lot.
They've got energy and
they're
and a lack of people also.
Yeah. A lack of people, and they end up paying their residents. So what can Utah do?
Well,
follow that same rubric.
I think if Utah went bold and strong into it and became an energy producer for the Western states, I think that would be ideal. And then we just charge them more.
Yeah.
It'd be nice for us to hold something over California for a minute,
So to give you an idea right now, the least you're ever going to pay in California for energy per kilowatt is about 35 cents. And that's the cheapest. I mean, most of the time, the average cheapest is around 45, 50 cents per kilowatt. Once you get into peak hours, especially in the Silicon Valley and in Los Angeles, where they have brownouts all the time, and those peak hours, you're paying sometimes up to $1.50, $2 a kilowatt. Okay. These nuclear reactors can get to a point where they can be producing energy at 2 cents a kilowatt. Okay.
Yeah. And then we can charge them
a kilowatt. So there's a lot of opportunity here for us to be able to, if we play that right and we understand that, we can utilize that to benefit the citizens of Utah greatly. And like we were talking about earlier, start building these roads that we've been needing, but not having to tax the people out of oblivion to get them, right? And to keep up with our growth. And those are the kind of strategies that I'm talking about. That'd be
great.
we're not looking at that. We're not considering that as an option. And so I want to start I want to bring these theories, if you will, these opportunities, and start looking into them and start figuring out how can we structure this, how can we get there, what's the plan, and build performance out, build out, do our financial studies on where the growth's going to be. Can we handle it? When can we reduce taxes? We won't have to raise taxes anymore for sure. But at what point, how much technical debt, and when I say technical debt, I mean like how many roads do we need to build to just break even where we're at right now on growth? How much water do we need? So we were talking about water earlier. One of the things that would greatly benefit Tooele is if the Great Salt Lake was actually full.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is if we had that major lake effect, not only would it affect also all of the Wasatch Front in the northern part, because right now you have a bunch of dust flying up there, and it hinders the snowpack that's up there, especially during a drought year like this, and it starts this spiral downward where the water we're getting less and less of it to fill the lake back up, and we're soon not going to have any. Where's
that? I don't know. I haven't heard anyone tell me directly where our lapse of water coming from up north has happened. We don't seem to be getting the water we used to. And is that strictly developments?
It's water usage, heavily water usage, but it's also we aren't getting as much snowpack. We're utilizing more of the water, and it's just not being retained and flowing into the Great Salt Lake. And so you have a problem here with the Great Salt Lake where it already, because of its surface area and how thin it is, I mean, we're talking about 1 million acre feet of water that is evaporating from the Great Salt Lake every year. So it's already a problem on that front, but it also restricts that lake effect when we don't have it like we used to have it back in the day. When we have a north front and the snowstorms coming in from the north in the early months of the fall and early months of winter, Tooele would benefit greatly in those mountains from all of that snow coming in with that lake effect, right? Same thing when we do have, east to west affecting our snow resorts and our Wasatch Front mountains. We're missing that snowpack that we could have with a greater lake. Now, I get that we've talked, I think even Trump came out and said he's going to help Spencer Cox fill the lake, and Spencer Cox has talked about filling the lake. And that's all great.
What's their plan? How are they going to fill it?
That I don't know, but here's my problem with it is how it's not a lasting solution.
How could you
fill all that water and then it's going to be gone again?
Could we? I mean, it's crazy to think about, but should we start looking into cloud seeding like they were doing in Texas?
So we actually have been doing cloud seeding in Utah for a long time, probably I think since the 80s, maybe even earlier.
Do we need to do it more?
Yeah, exactly. And then, but here's the thing that I would like to see going on is we have a Snake River that we get barely any water from it. I think there's a river a little stream
from the Snake, and then you're talking, it comes down the Little Bear, the Bear and the Little Bear.
From Malad down to Little Bear. It's just like a little creek that doesn't really affect that much. But if we did build infrastructure that on heavy rain years, again, we gotta have an infrastructure that is in place that we understand how to build it and how to maximize our efficiency and water utilization for the big rain years, for the years that we get so much water that we don't know what to do with it and it all runs off. The Snake River doesn't need all of it. In fact, they get so high, we could take out just during those years, take some of that and bleed it into the Great Salt Lake. That way we are utilizing our heaviest rainfall and snowpack years to last us for the 7 years of drought, right?
So we'd have to get with Idaho on that.
We'd have to get with Idaho, which they wouldn't mind that on certain levels as long as
now I know
the increases, we could make a trade with them for energy or something, right?
The Colorado River, that's always a complicated argument because that goes down and that feeds the Hoover Dam,
Yep.
and then it also, the Hoover Dam and Lake Mead, which those are suffering as well. And then it also provides power, which is, I mean, we're getting to a point where if the nation doesn't start seriously looking at nuclear, we're going to be in a crisis.
Yes.
We're getting to a point where hydroelectric, as it stands, or has been, in our minds, the cleanest generation of electricity.
Yes.
But we're getting to a point where we cannot.
Right.
I don't know how nuclear power works. Again, I'm an idiot. But
no, if you want, I can kind of just give you the cliff notes.
Well, let's go over that another time because I only got a few more minutes with you.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I know that we make steam. Steam turns a turbine. The turbine, generates the electricity.
Electricity.
Can they make that into an enclosed system? Does it have to be a smokestack that just vents the steam out the whole time? Can we make it enclosed to where we trap it and it comes back kind of like a still? I don't know. But I do think, that nationally, and this is an argument everywhere, these data centers are becoming a hot topic where everyone wants to shut them down. We can't have the data centers. And I would say as long as the people who live around it don't have to pay for it, as long as the data center will figure out how to financially support itself, I'm 100% saying, yeah, let's run ahead with data centers. I definitely don't want to learn Mandarin, so I don't want the Chinese to win this new industrial revolution we're in the midst of. But I do think that we need to seriously invest in making electricity. I think nuclear and designing the next generation of battery that's more functional and meets our needs better is the two routes we really have to go down. If we get the battery down, then we can have solar and wind and they can generate on their hot times and we can store it. But right now we don't have the storage. But nuclear is the ultimate option for just a permanent, steady flow. And then if Utah can get on board, make it and sell it and provide that service to other states, and it'd be cool to see Utah have an income that doesn't involve a vice or tourism.
Yeah.
And so other states can pursue their dreams and goals. Nevada can continue with its gambling and mining, and we can provide electricity to support them on that. And California can pursue its decadence or whatever it's fallen into, and we can provide energy for that. And Oregon and Washington can continue to pursue being held hostage by one large city that's ruining the whole state, and we can provide energy for that. We can provide a service for them that will hopefully benefit the state.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Jordan, Holly's not here. This was an impromptu outside of the normal schedule because Brooks has it's a comment. Brooks has a schedule that conflicts with him joining us at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. And hopefully one day in the future we can get that. But until then, we're doing this so that the people voting can meet Brooks. Listen to his stories.
That. Great to meet everybody. I hope everybody gets a chance to listen to this. So it was great. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, of course. We're happy to do it. This is kind of one thing I really enjoy doing is is getting the different political parties' ideas. I don't even care if you're, a Democrat. I want the populace to at least know. Yeah, I can tell.
Everybody to know.
I can tell.
I'm very
Hold on.
conservative and a
You
Republican.
made an awful lot of sense while we were talking. Let's no, we got but I want everyone who's voting to at least, when they read down that list, to have heard what this person is talking about. I don't care what party you're from. I don't care how you vote. I don't care if you're one of those Looney Tunes that wants to vote away rights and, whatever, suicidal empathy. I still want you to know who you're voting for.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyways, Brooks, that's been great. Is there a website that we can divert people to?
Yeah, Brooks Benson for Utah.com, the number 4. So Brooks Benson, the number 4, Utah.com.
Okay. I'm going to flash that up on the screen right now.
Yeah, it goes over a lot of stuff we talked about on this show today. So,
all right, you got a tweed jacket on in that. That's outstanding.
I like that color. It's my favorite jacket. So,
okay, everyone. So it's Brooks Benson, the number 4, Utah.com. Go there, check him out if you want to financially support him. I'm sure he would love that. Get on, have more questions. I'm sure we'll have him on again, hopefully in person as we start ramping up for the official race. Me and Holly will be back on at 6:00 tonight. I want to thank Brooks for taking time out of his schedule to join me here. And yeah, go check him out. Brooks Benson for Utah. It's I do feel like 100% we need to revitalize our legislature. It's sad we've had a couple of really good representatives leave over the last little while, but we've also had a lot that have been there for a very long time. And every once in a while I see a bill come out that doesn't make sense to me. Like there was a bill that came out on if you have to legitimately use your firearm in a self-defense situation, and they want to put a time limit on you reporting it, but they're not declaring a time limit. They just have the vague, there's a time limit on when you report it. And that sounds to me like they're setting it up so they can say, we didn't like what you did there. We're going to railroad you.
We can come back anytime.
And I don't want vague in my legal system,
especially when it's involving a self-defense situation.
Yes, I want vague, and I'm a firearms instructor. That's one of my things. Carry every day. Now, hopefully, I never have to employ that. But this law that just got passed has me a little leery. So I'm going to try to make my voice heard and do my civic duty and be a pain in the butt to the senator who put it in, and have him maybe next year go back in and
revise some things,
rewrite it. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
I'm glad you're involved.
Yes. All right. Jordan says you have his vote. Now, Jordan, I believe, is Jordan, are you down by Harriman? If I remember, you're down that way. So he would be the guy you're voting for if you're in District 11. Everyone, Brooks Benson, look him up, look into him. And if even if you have questions, you want him to elaborate more or anything else, reach out to him, and we're going to try to get him back on again in a more formal setting to have him grind out again.
Cool. I'm more than happy to.
All right. Thanks, Brooks. You have a good day.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Bye. Okay. And then I will be back on at 6 with Holly to do the regular show. We've got Anita Dalrymple. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's coming on tonight. Yeah, she's running for House 28. I believe she's coming from the Democrat Party.